I feel like live streaming is always hit and miss.
Yeah, it is. All right, and we're live. Welcome, everybody. We have quite a few people joining us today, and I'm really excited to be here with Matt Tytel. A few days ago, he had announced in our Discord that he has unveiled a new open source cross-platform C++ library for graphics called Visage. Is it Visage or Visage?
Well, I mean, if you're speaking American English, it's Visage, but I say Visage. But my wife speaks French, so she would be upset if I said it the American English way.
I like Visage. It sounds fancier.
Hmm.
So this library is called Visage. It's cross-platform GPU accelerated C++ graphics library. Really exciting because, as some of you may know, I think that graphics is probably one of the more challenging areas when it comes to creating plugins in the current landscape of options available for graphics libraries. Some people are starting to move towards WebView and web technology, and there are other people that have really held tight for a C++ option, like myself. And so this is very exciting. So welcome, Matt.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah. So if you don't know Matt Tytel, you may recognize his synthesizer that he released a couple years ago called Vital. It's a synthesizer that really made waves a few years ago. And if you know about the graphics in Vital, they're very compelling and they use a lot of um, low-level rendering. You used OpenGL for that, correct?
Yeah, originally I used Juice to draw a lot of things, and then I was like realized that I couldn't draw lines fast enough, so then I started doing a lot of raw OpenGL early on. And then slowly I moved away from raw OpenGL to like use different backends. But that's like the beginning of this project was like, how do I draw really fast? Like at the screen refresh rate. So it's like nice and smooth and looks nice.
Yeah,
Um,
so that might be a great place to start. So the original concept for this library, would you say that it evolved out of Idle, or was this something that was a separate project entirely? Because I imagine that you must have had some reusable concepts and reusable ideas that had come out of Idle.
yeah, I mean, it definitely started with Vital, but like I feel like I didn't really take a lot from my development of Vital. It it was a kind of built from the ground up after Vital, but I pulled in like some ideas from it. But the desire to make this library came directly from Vital because I was struggled so much with like making fast drawing happen, and there's like a lot of UI frameworks out there, but not a lot of them work great in a plugin environment, and not a lot of them render like 60 frames or faster per second, and not a lot of them do really good anti-aliasing or are really efficient. So this is like kind of like a kind of a best of all worlds thing. I wanted something that was efficient and like drew really fast and um, was more lightweight because there's other graphics libraries out there. Like I know Skia, some people use Skia, but it's like this massive, massive library and has a ton of dependencies. And I know it's kind of a pain to get working in a plugin environment, though I know people have. Um, but yeah, so it was kind of like I could use Skia or I could go back and like just make something more low level and more like tailored to what my needs were. So that's kind of where this project started.
Yeah, I
Uh,
believe iPlug 2 uses Skia.
yeah, I think they have a Skia version. Yeah, a version or like a branch you can use that has Skia all set up. But I
Mhm.
haven't used that myself, so would like to know how that works.
Yeah. And cross-platform options, from my understanding, is another area that makes this a challenge, right?
Yeah, I mean, I'm porting to, not porting, I'm uh, building to four different backends. It works on DirectX with Windows, like it uses the direct 3D11 on Windows, and it uses Metal on Mac and Vulkan on Linux. And I also have a WebGL version, so you can like run these in browser, which is kind of nice, especially if you want to have just show someone your UI. And here's a link. You can just show them the graphics in a browser. So.
Mhm.
Uh, yeah, so it's a lot of work to get to be cross-platform. So it's like those four back-end graphics libraries, and then you have Mac, Windows, Linux, all those Windows to deal with, and those APIs to deal with, which is a pain. And I'm working on a Wayland port, which is also nicer than X11, but still a pain. But
Nice. And how long has it actually been going on for? How long have you been working on this project?
I guess I started it like right after Vital. I was like kind of playing around with it, but it was kind of like this last year that I really spent most of my time working on this. And I'm working on another plugin. I can't, I'm not going to talk much about that, but this is kind of this is the graphics for that, the graphics library for that plugin. So it's kind of this back and forth between um, my new plugin and this graphics library. And so I guess I wanted to make like this branch this. I thought this was a nice encapsulation of something I could make its own library from this project. So I spent a bunch of time like making it nice to use in the library. Hope if anyone has any issues like getting started, just let me know because I want it to be very smooth sailing. So.
That's awesome. What would you say was the biggest challenge to it?
Ah, good question. Uh, it's all the unknowns that you get into, I think. Like when you do a graphics library, you're like, oh yeah, I can draw this square, I can draw this, and then you draw shapes and you're like, once you get into text, it's like this whole can of worms. It's like you can go so deep just doing text. It is mind-boggling how much time it takes to render text in a good way. It's like even with libraries, like if you use a nice library like FreeType to like render the text, it's like there's a whole other library that's used for organizing these fonts, these glyphs in space. And then there's all the UTF encodings that you have to deal with, and it's just like one thing after another. It's a big rabbit hole. So I guess text is kind of an annoying thing that I was really unexpected. I spent an unexpected amount of time on text, just doing
That's
text. Yeah.
Yeah, I'd heard that it's gone deep, but I'm sure that I'm underestimating the complexity around that. Uh,
Yeah, it's
and
like the most boring thing to talk about. So I'm not gonna like let's talk about all the UTF encodings, like and why, why we have 8, 16, and 32 bit. And it's yeah, let's not.
wow, that's wild. And I'm sure myself included, this would have been something that I would have happily paid for. So can you talk a little bit about the decision to make it open source and what are the licensing?
Yeah, I thought about making a business, but I decided it was like I make money off plugins. I don't want to have another like software business. I didn't want to run a software business. So it's kind of just like a want to get this out there, make a library that people can just use and maybe I'll gain some, glory that way, but I'm not gonna run a whole software business. Running software businesses, yeah, I feel like it's harder to convince people to pay for developers to pay for something, and then you're not sure if you want to have like something more enterprise where you only have a few customers or more user facing like Juice, which is like, affordable but still kind of expensive. And I just wanted to focus on my plugin business and this will be like a something I work on just because I make plugins and hopefully the open source community will help me to make it better so my plugins get better. So that's kind of like where my head was at with the business side or like the license side. So it's MIT licensed if anyone doesn't know. So pretty permissive.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's interesting. I think I heard a piece of advice a couple of years back that said, when it comes to selling things, don't try to sell to developers.
I
Um,
know. I feel like we're so not I'm not stingy, but like very suspicious of people and they don't want to spend money. So is subscription averse. Like I feel like still subscription averse. I have a few subscriptions, but like it's
Yeah,
kind of crazy to me how many people out there just like willy-nilly subscribe to things. Because I feel like all my developer friends are like very like hold their cards close to their chest and like I'm not going to subscribe to that. I just want to, use the free open source version.
yeah.
But yeah,
It's interesting because one of the mentalities that I've seen in our industry has been the want for everybody to make everything open source, but the
yeah,
also desire for them to make things for themselves closed sourced, which
right.
which is this interesting oxymoron.
Yeah,
So
true.
yeah, yeah, and also just seeing hanging around the Juice forums and also seeing just in our Discord the demands that developers have in terms of developer products. It's so extremely high.
Yeah,
Threshold for those is really high, and I don't envy that position at all.
yeah, yeah.
So
That's don't want to piss off any developers. They can get
yeah,
angry. So
yeah. And that's really that's really interesting as well because when you open source it, then it feels it can I guess the advantage of that is that you could say, hey, if there's something in there that you want that you don't have, you can do a pull request or
yeah,
you can fork off and and that you don't feel so bound to be, you know, I don't want to say a slave, but just bound to feel like you need to continuously
right.
be
Yeah,
going in there and being responsible to justify the money that you're charging.
exactly. Yeah, it's like I didn't want to get into a situation where I was like, it's not bringing enough money to like continue the business, but it's not bringing in a little bit. It has to still have a lot of customers, so I have to support them. I didn't want to get to this point where I'm like not making enough money to make this worth my while, but also I feel obligated. So it's just like I don't want to add another obligation to my plate. That was like paying customers is different than like open source customers, so I would say users. And I feel like it's gonna be there's I feel like it's gonna be a bigger success because it's open source and people will be more interested in like contributing and making it better. So
Mhm.
I thought the
And
benefit from that would be more than the money I would make selling
yeah,
it.
yeah, that's awesome. And it allows the community to really make it the best that it could possibly be. Is in terms of your philosophy about pull requests and accepting contributions from the community, do you have any thoughts on how you're going to handle that? Is it something that you're going to do?
Yeah, I mean some people know that I have like a source dump of Vital out there, but I don't take contributions and it's GPL licensed. Um, and that kind of if when you have an open source project but it's not open contribution, people kind of get upset. Um, but from my point of view, Vital was like I wanted that to be my own, like I wanted full control over that. And it's kind of like user facing, it's not developer facing. So uh it's kind of it's a different the way you interact with developers is really different for a user facing project versus a developer facing one. Um and so yeah, but for Visage, I it's definitely open contribution. I don't know if I need like a CLA or something. I probably do at some point. Right now I'm taking my like very small pull requests just because like they're like little bug bug fixes. But I need to maybe have something more formal at some point. But I haven't really thought about that.
Mm-hmm. There was a question here in the chat that I wanted to ask about.
Sure.
So have have you given the Juice WebView UIs or given Chalk a try at all? And I was wondering if you had any comparisons or contrasts with those.
Hmm. I don't I have not done any web views. I've done views in the web before, and I just find like I've struggled enough to do things that I would like, you know, have like draw lines and like just do things that like I do a lot in C++. plus plus. Like I have it all set up. And for web views, I feel like the tech is not designed for really, for at least in my point of view, like to have things like zoom around and
Mhm.
animate. But I mean, I haven't. It's something I haven't spent a lot of time with. So no, I haven't done a lot of web UI stuff. And I guess like I don't see the benefit of spending a lot of time with it because that I feel like there's like gonna be a lot of growing pains with like sharing data from audio to JavaScript, and I just I I guess it's not the what I want to build on. So I haven't spent a lot of time with it, but I should probably take a look. What was the question about the web UI in
Just just
Juice?
just if you've had any experience with it
No,
and
I
just
haven't. No.
very contrasting. Uh, it's something that I took a look into very casually, and that with the web, you have WebGL. So just one of the things that I was just thinking about was optimization, refresh
Right.
speed, quality of graphics,
Hmm.
and my understanding just from my casual research was that you would be able to get quite far with web tech, but that it will never get to the
Yeah.
level of efficiency, obviously,
Right. Right. Right.
and
Yeah. It's hard
also,
to it's hard to know how efficient web tech is going to get. I mean, it has so much resource behind, so many resources behind it. But like, I I feel like I would get to this point where I'm like, okay, I want to do all this stuff in WebGL and it's not fast enough. So then I'm like writing native code. I don't want to write native code to compile. I don't want to compile native code to WebAssembly and then run that in a web view. That's like not what I want to get to. I know JavaScript is pretty qu fast, but I guess my main concern was like, how do I share data between like that's like more complicated and
mhm.
yeah. So it's just things that like I thought it added more complexity because I'm a C++ programmer. I know C++ really well. I've written JavaScript, but it's like I can write UIs in C++ better than I can uh in JavaScript, in my opinion. But
Yeah. I think one of the challenges as a person who was trying to learn how to do web UIs was just the changing the language, changing the mentality. I felt like that was a barrier that was difficult for me to cross. Was just okay, coming from originally doing everything in Juice with the C++ UI kit that they supply,
mm,
and then going into, okay, now this is a different language, this is a different, you know, okay, learning a whole different language or
yep,
a whole different set of tools, because it's not just JavaScript, it's also HTML and CSS, and just trying to learn what goes where. And as you probably know about that side of things, there are a million different ways to do all of
yep,
those things.
yep,
Um, the thing that I like about C++ is that there's typically one good way to do it.
yeah, right.
And that if you don't do it the right
Or
way,
zero.
yeah, and if you don't do it that way, that it just doesn't look right. It doesn't come
Yeah.
out. I'm a results based person.
Yeah, I
So
mean, if you're like a web developer, like it makes it's going to bring a lot of developers in to have all these experience, skill sets, and like if you're a web developer, go for web UI. It's like
yeah, yeah,
all your
definitely.
skills are there. So like,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. So many people are asking to
Oh
see
yeah,
what
should
it's
we?
all about. So maybe we
Let's
could
see.
jump into the code demo. And
Yeah, let's see. Uh, can everyone see that? Is it big
yep,
enough? I can
yeah, looks
make
good.
this
If you can make
big.
it a little bit bigger, that'd be awesome. Okay, great. All right.
I'll just make it really big. All right, so this is like a really basic example. So just
Mhm.
to show, it's like getting started. I'll just do the real basics. You can just create like an application window,
Yep.
and if you're familiar with Juice, um, You can, it's going to be somewhat similar to that. You know, you have your graphics context and you can like set colors and then draw shapes. So this example, let me just run it. So it just like draws this shape here. Oh, I had edited it to show someone that you can do gradients, but yeah, it just draws a background and a little circle, and then like if you resize it, it you know
Yeah.
redraws it. Um, and then you just set the title, and you set how big you want the window to be, and you show it, and then you run the event loop, and the event loop is just like handles all the mouse input, keyboard input, and it once the you close the window, it returns, and then the app's done. So this is like a basic, just a very basic example, and this is one way to set a draw callback. You can like just add if you've ever seen like if you ever used Unity, it's kind of like a similar to that. You can kind of you can like set the draw call
Hmm. So
kind of like
that's
this.
so,
You can
so
also
on
append. Yeah,
so
go ahead.
on like your paint call.
Yeah, it's like your paint call. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
And you can if you want to do something more, if you're more into like inheritance, I can show you, let's see. Um this is not. Let me find a different example, one second. Um yeah, so this is like you can inherit a frame, or you can inherit from the window and override a draw function. So the on draw just lets you kind of add on to like this draw function. So if you have like if you just want to do an inheritance-based thing, you can inherit from frame and then call draw. So let me get into more like fancy graphics because that's let me get into like the why what makes Visage more unique. I want to show this example. Oh, no, not that one. Can everyone see that? Um,
Oh yeah. Nice.
I don't know if it's updating at 60 frames per second.
Mm.
Probably not.
Definitely
But on my
not.
screen it is. On my screen it's updating at 60 frames per second and it's like zooming around. It's like around this circle, it's like zooming around. And this is showing that you can like this is just drawing a bunch of circles on the screen on the left here. It's drawing like I don't know hundreds of circles. So you can draw hundreds of circles or thousands or even probably even tens of thousands. I haven't gone up that high, but you can draw tons and tons of shapes all at the same time. And what Visage does in the background is it batches them together. So it's a more efficient way to send data to the GPU and like have the GPU draw a bunch of shapes. It
Mm.
batches all these circles together and it says GPU draw all these shapes and it automatically batches it for you. So you don't need to do anything fancy. And on the right here is like a post effect. So this what's happening is we're just drawing white circles. So I can disable the shader, and this is kind of what's happening in C++ is it's drawing all these white circles. And this shader is like doing a post effect on top of that. So you can think of like if you want to have like your UI do something just like use your basic like UI outline, and then you want to have some like cool effect on top of it, like make it glow or blur it um have like a glitchy if you want to have like a glitchy like all these creative effects, you can do something do all of that uh in like this post effect shader. Um so yeah, you can like change, it's live shader editing, so you can like change it and like right now this is kind of crazy. It's not like what you would make in a plugin, but it's just to show you that it's like it updates live when you edit the shader. Um so yeah, that's um some live editing. If everyone has any questions, you can feel free to interrupt me. So let's see. Um,
I have loads
watch.
of but I'll wait until you
Oh, okay, okay. Let me show a couple like more useful effects, I would say. You can do things like there's like these built-in you can do lots of post effects, but this is like a one that ships with Visage. It's like just a bloom
that's
and it uses some HDR. It lets you like, have brighter than it doesn't cap the color at one. It's brighter than one. So and what happens is any color that's brighter than one blurs, and so it creates this bloom effect. If you want something to glow, you can just add this after post effect onto your frame, and I can show you what that looks like. It's in code. Um, I really made this text really big. Okay. Um, okay, that's just the drawing. Um, let's see, where is it? Um, Oh yeah, right here. So you just have a post effect and you can just set the post effect um on your editor or on your window or on your frame. It can be like a subframe and it's just you just add it like that on top of whatever drawing. So it doesn't take any extra setup. You just kind of just add it like that. Um and here I just set the bloom size and the bloom intensity. And then when you want to draw, you can set the colors to be brighter than one. Um, Here's one example. You can, there's a color here. This is the base color. And then you can like set the HDR, which is like a value of, zero is like, one is like normal color. If you set it to two, it'll be like twice as bright. Um, so yeah, that's Bloom. Let me show you some other one. Sorry, there we go. The zoom is over my stop buttons. Let me show you some more ex useful graphics features. This one shows kind of blend modes. So like if you want to draw shapes and then, if you just draw them normally, they overlap and it kind of does anti-aliasing and overlays them. But this is a different way to draw. You can like have this an additive mode, so you just like every shape just adds color. It doesn't actually overlap the shape. It'll just add color to it. So here in this case, if you draw red, a green, and a blue circle, you get white in the center. Similarly, subtractive, you can like subtract colors from your UI. This masked, maybe make this a little bigger. This masked example in the bottom left is probably the most useful thing in terms of a plugin. Like say you wanted to have, you know, a circle with like a line animating inside of it, you can mask it so it'll cut. It is like basically cuts out, you know, a piece of your um a piece of your frame and just shows that instead of because right now what's happening here is I'm just drawing a bunch of rectangles and then I cut out the shape. And so you can cut out shapes like that. And then another useful one is like this grouped transparency. So you draw what you want to draw and then you can fade the entire thing um instead of like if you set like a alpha, a transparency, and then you draw three shapes, they're gonna like overlap and you're going to see one shape through the other. It's not like you fading out the entire thing together. If you want to draw the shape and then fade out the entire thing, it allows you to do that just by like setting the transparency on a frame. And so I keep talking about frames. Frames are just like it's kind of like it's a part of your hierarchy in Visage. So it's like let me show you an example of that. Let's see. Oops, that's myself. Um, It has a So this is an example of just of adding a bunch of frames. So you can what you can do is you can take a frame and like set the bounds, kind of like in Juice it's called a uh wait Josh, what's it called in Juice? The a what?
A rectangle object?
It's just like a when you create a hierarchy and you're like add a child, it's a
Oh,
component, component. It's like a component in Juice. It's it's called we call it a frame in Visage, and you can just add add frames like this, just add child. Um, and this example, um, I'm kind of jumping around feature sets here, but this is like a lets you lay out frames in a way. So this is just a flex box. If you're familiar with web flex boxes, is like a way to do flex boxes, and this is like a wrapping flex box.
uh-huh.
Um, but there's like there's other ways to set set that up. So are there any I'm kind of just jumping around. Were there any questions about the
There are loads of questions, and
okay.
maybe I could guide the questions along.
Yeah, yeah, sure.
By the way, for anybody who's watching, I had to switch the live stream. I messed up the first one, so and I had a lot of likes on the first live stream. So if you're enjoying the conversation, be sure to hit the thumbs up button, like and subscribe, and all of that. That'd be a big help. But in the meantime, I'd like to jump all the way back to kind of the beginning because this my frame of reference for all of this is Juice, basically.
Okay.
Um, so it sounds like what would happen is that your Juice audio processor would then kick off a Visage application window rather than an audio processor editor. Am I right in
Wait,
saying that?
say that again.
So in Juice, you have the
Yeah.
audio processor, right?
Yep.
And then the audio processor instantiates an audio processor editor
I
for
see.
your, which is your UI window. So
Yep.
rather than rather than kicking off an audio processor editor,
Hmm.
it kick off a Visage application window. Am I
Yeah.
right in that?
For the UI, yes. So I mean, if you just want to have you mean it could be totally separate, right? So you could have just have your audio and then your window.
Yeah.
So like I have a clap version here, it just opens and when it requests that you open the window, it opens the window and then it closes it. And you can pass in if if you create a custom application window, you can pass in your processor there. So I don't you don't it doesn't that the processor the audio processor doesn't have to create the window itself.
Hmm.
I would say it would keep them separate, I would say like you can pass your processor as a constructor argument to the window or
Yeah.
whatever data you need in your application window, you can just pass it in from your audio processor.
Okay. Yeah. So somebody was asking if this was something that you would draw the within a juice component or whether this completely replaces it. So my
Yeah, I
understanding is
don't know how well it works with Juice, because Juice does a lot of plugin wrapping, and they create their own windows inside of the VST3 wrappers and all of that. But I have a clap. I don't know how well would work in Juice. You can add draw to a window that you already have
hmm,
inside Visage. I have an example of that in here. It's the bring your own window example. But it's not something I tested a lot, and it's like would probably take more doing because I make sure that in Visage that when you create a window, it creates the graphics context is like exactly the amount of pixels wide and tall it is. So it's not like you're getting any blurred. So a lot of times you open like a plugin like Ableton and it's like blurry because your windows, scaling doesn't match. And so you
mhm.
don't get like the right. This happens all the time. I see so many plugins do that, but I've worked pretty hard to make sure that doesn't happen in with
Yeah.
Vital. Sorry, Visage. So yeah. Did that answer your? Wait, I forgot what the. yeah, so working with juice, it would probably take some doing, but to open a window, but to get it to work, drawing into a juice window. It's meant as a UI replacement. You
Yeah.
probably could get it working together. I don't know how hard it would be.
Yeah. Somebody had said, where is it? I saw somebody that said that they'd given it a try in juice and that um, they got it mostly working, but there were a couple little hiccups that they wanted to ask about. Can't seem to find his comment now. Oh yeah, from somebody named Chris. I got it working in Juice using their Windows, but some slight issues I'm going to ask him about. Um,
Okay.
yeah, so another question is around parameter handling. So can you
Mhm.
a little bit about how that works? Maybe I imagine that your clap example would.
Yeah, I mean, so I kind of designed Visage to not be not know really know anything about plugins or things that are only plugin specific. The only thing I made it function. Like the only plugin really specific code I have is when you create your plugin, it gives you the dog gives you a like a parent window, and I'm just make sure that works correctly, so you don't have to worry about that. But as far as like audio plugins and like doing that kind of communication, I don't have a lot of code there. That's kind of I'm not saying I'm not going to add that, but this is more about this library is more about just creating a graphics library, and so
Right.
you would need to bring your own communication in to handle like communicating data. You can create your, I mean, you'd be able to create your own controls and send messages, but as far as audio specific like parameters in the like a plug in the plugin, I don't have a way to, there's no like built-in way to do things like that. Um, so this is mainly a UI graphics replacement, not uh, yeah, not anything else.
Right. How did you handle that in the clap example, or did you do that in the clap example at
I
all?
don't have, it's just the clap example is just opens a window and draws. So there's nothing audio related at all. It's
Okay.
just yeah. So I mean, I can easily add something, but I meant it as like a very basic example. So it's like just shows you how to have it so it, creates a window and draws something.
Hmm.
Um, and then like handles things like if you resize your window intern like with your own code, it handles sending that to Clap. So it lets the host know that you've resized internally. So things like that, like right here, um, that lets the host know that you've resized. And it's just to show you like um, yeah, how would you create a window in Collapse and like draw to it and like do, but you're this the audio side is like all on you. That's and the parameters, that's all on that's all on yeah,
Yeah.
that's all that would be your responsibility.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's cool.
I mean, that's
Yeah.
not something I used in Juice. I didn't use any of their parameter handling or yeah, I mean, Clap has done a great job at like making um making plugin development, like at least like handling all the communication between a DAW and the plugin, like really nice and straightforward and like very easy to get going. So I kind of think of it like that's more on like that kind of library than this UI library.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah. So were there other questions, or I can also show you how like a little inheritance and
Yeah.
um,
Another question was
yeah,
SVG, PNG, JPEG handling. Is
yeah,
that here in the
yeah,
library?
yeah. Let me show you the showcase.
By the way, this is sick, man. This is awesome.
Thanks.
I'm so excited.
So this is just like it has all of the not all of the features, but a lot of the ones that are like you would have. So like there's some line rendering and drawing on the top left. Um, pop-up menus, uh text editing. multi-line text editing. There's emojis. I don't know how to type an emoji in this keyboard, but you can copy one. Let's see what comes up
Yeah, there you go. Nothing better than a heart emoji.
there.
Nice.
So
Emojis.
emojis, yeah, great. Buttons. Here's here's like a one I didn't talk about. There's like a blur, which is like really,
Mm.
and there's like animations underneath. So it's like a real-time big blur. It gets bigger than that if you want it. A bigger blur than that. Um, so that's something that's really another useful one, post effect. Here's an image on the left here, and then the shader is like a custom shader right there. This is all in a scrollable frame, so you can like, use your mouse wheel to scroll. And on the bottom right here is it's file dragging and dropping. So it's like this top one, you can, let's see, whoops. You can drag from your app over here and it creates a file.
Wow.
Stuff like that. And then you can also drop it, drag it onto this back
Yeah.
onto the app. So like handling like file dragging and dropping across different OSs, which is kind of a pain.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, these like different text editors. These are a bunch of shapes drawing. Uh, so this is kind of like a little showcase to show you all the things you can do. And this is all wrapped in like a Flexbox type thing. So you can like, if you make it smaller, it like snaps down. Um, yeah.
Yeah.
Um, I can just like keep showing things, or I mean, or if people have questions, I
Yeah.
can just like
Yeah.
what?
What I can do is maybe you can show examples, and while you're showing examples, I'll comb through the
Oh,
chat,
sounds good.
ask more questions.
Um, Guess I'll just
Yeah. Yeah. I would love to do a future video on connecting parameters up, things like that. I've got a couple ideas on
oh yeah.
how that could work.
Um, I'm just gonna show like a really basic example of inheritance and like um setting up your app,
Yeah, great.
or just like kind of organizing.
Mhm.
I think that'll work. Not very good at, oops. Right. So this is a way to show like you can set up a little hierarchy. And this is a way, so a lot of times like you have like your resized, like in Juice, you would have you like, oh, and on say you have like so this example is like an app and then it has a child frame. And it's
Mhm.
just I'm setting the frame to be exactly the same size as the window.
Mhm.
So and like, a lot of imperative like UI libraries, you'd be like on resize the frame to be the exact same size as the parent. I have this little layout set up. It's the same thing as the layout with the flex box I showed you.
Mhm.
But you kind of just like set. It's like a way to do things that are like just set the child to be the exact same size as the parent. You can just set the margin to 0, and it'll just expand it when the parent resizes. You could also set it to like 10. Um, 10 pixels. And so it has a little, let's maybe make it a little bigger.
Yeah, that's really
Yeah.
cool.
So you can like, do really simple things like that. There's also like this, let's see, using a way to,
Live coding.
yeah, I love live coding. You can, so something that's kind of annoying in my mind, is like the confusion between physical pixels and logical pixels and
Hmm.
setting an initial window size. You're like, what's going on? So like in Visage, like you can open a window to be logical pixels. You can open it to be physical pixels. Like I want, like when I do programming, I want everything to be physical pixels. So
Hmm.
I know like where to draw the edge of a rectangle so it's not blurry. I want it to be like on a pixel border, on the right on the edge, not like halfway over a pixel. Um, so Visage lets you do certain things like that. So like say I want to open the windows 800 physical pixels. If you're including Visage's dimension, you can just set device pixels, DPX underscore DPX,
Hmm.
and you can set this to be 100 device pixels. I forget what this is called in C++, but it's a nice way to do things like this. So that it was opening up like that. You can also just open it in logical pixels. I think it'll be my windows is set to be somewhat bigger, so it should be a little bigger. Yeah.
Hmm.
So that opens bigger. You can kind of do things like web kind of like web sizes. So let's see. You can do like view width. So like say I wanted to make it 80% of the view width, like that, and 80% of the view height. So it's like they'll take my monitor and be like, all right, it's 80% of the width and 80% of the height.
Nice.
Um, and it just centers it. You can also just run it, show maximize, things like that. And you can run this, you can do that also in the layout too. Um, so it's maximized.
Hmm.
Let's go.
This actually brings up one question that I saw in the chat, which was, um, have you given this a run on an iPhone, iPad, Android at all?
Mm, I have not. Well, my examples, they don't currently work on mobile WebGL. I have a fix for it. It just needs to make it through some a library I'm using. But I've ran it. It runs like it's I think 120 frames per second on an iPhone. A lot of these examples.
Nice.
Um, yeah, but that's using WebGL. I don't have a metal build of it. I don't know how much work it would take to do that. I think it would take a lot of, dealing with like touch kind of things would be a little bit more work.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, but as far as rendering goes, it should be all set up. If you wanted to draw things on iOS. But it's pretty efficient. Like it runs in browsers and runs and browsers on phone. I mean, it's right now there's a bug where it won't refresh. It just like shows like one frame
Hmm.
on mobile browsers, or it doesn't show at all. But that fix is coming. Um, but yeah, it's pretty efficient, I would say, for mobile. But
That's,
I don't have a lot of test cases on it on mobile. Um, yep.
I have a question that's tangentially related to this. For in your, maybe you won't want to answer this. I don't know. So you
Okay.
said you're developing a new plugin. Your development process, is it using this clap Visage workflow, or are you
This,
using Juice or?
I'm not using Juice. I'm using Clap right now. I don't have a full laid out plan for other plugin formats. Clap has like a wrapper uh, that they're working on for like VST3 and AU and I think AAX soon.
Mhm.
So I might end up using that. And if you use like the clap wrapper, it'll, then you can just write it for clap and then it should just work. Um, so that's my current setup. I don't know if that's going to be my final setup when I come to ship. Uh, but it is using right now. I'm just like um,
You're
I'm
just
just
going.
using.
Oh,
Yeah, I'm kind of using this like setup. I mean, where it just like opens the. I mean, it's pretty simple. It's not going to take a lot of work to change that part of it.
uh-huh.
Yes, because I write a lot of I don't use a lot of library like internal libraries um for these like plugin formats in my own code. So like, a lot of it can just be like moved over. Like it runs standalone, it runs in yeah. So moving over to a new plugin format probably wouldn't take a ton of work, but it'll be something I just probably decide later if I want to end up using the clap wrapper library or if I want to like independently make my own VST3 version.
Yeah,
Yeah. So it's
cool.
not, yeah, so Juice is like, if you're comparing, if you're like coming at it, comparing this to Juice, Juice has a lot of utilities for like audio plugin specific things. But if like a lot of developers, the only thing they really want in Juice is like the plugin wrapping and the UI library, and then they write everything themselves. They write the audio themselves, they write the plugin plugin parameters all themselves, and they kind of interface with if they interface first with um right now, yeah, so I kind of replaced the UI version, the UI part of that,
Hmm.
and not anything else. And that's kind of like the goal. I don't really want to make a juice replacement. It's mainly like if you want a UI library that's like if you want to draw fast and you want to have like kind of creative coding effects on top of that, then this library might be good. But
Yeah.
it's not meant to like, yeah, have all of the audio plugin specific things
Mm-hmm.
that Juice has. Yeah.
Um, okay, so somebody had asked how to draw a line with Visage.
If you want to draw, I mean, a line segment or a curvy line, like I have the blur, let's see, Bloom example draws a line, and I can just show you that. Um, I have this animated line class, and let me find out. I use this a graph line. Um, So this is built into the library. Um, it's just a class. You
Mhm.
include it here, you put it in your frame, and
Yeah.
then you can just set X and Y of those positions.
Mm.
So that's what I'm doing right here. This boost thing is to make that glow. It just like adds color to it. Uh, and then you can uh, set the line width somewhere. Sorry, the font is so big. I'm like, where the heck am I?
That's all right. You're all good.
Let's see. Oh yeah, I think it's built. I didn't override it, but you can override. I just took the default line width from this graph line, and so I just right now you can just use this graph line um in your app, and then just set the X and Y of it, and it'll draw a line like through those points.
Um, there was a question about somebody had made a comment that they thought that it implemented WebGL and not OpenGL. Is that the case? Because I thought you said that it was OpenGL.
WebGL. Um,
Okay.
yeah, so it's WebGL. I mean, I did have OpenGL on Linux at one point. I decided to move that over to Vulkan. So Vulkan on Linux, Metal on Mac, DirectX on Windows, and it uses WebGL, which is like I don't really know the specifics, but it's like OpenGL ES, and then it's like I don't. It's like very similar to that, or I don't know exactly where the distinction is, but
Hmm.
it's built for WebGL. Did I say OpenGL?
Yeah, that answers the question.
I see. Okay.
Um, um, are there any other, do you have any dependencies in here?
Yeah, and mainly, so I have a couple dependencies. There is BGFX, which is what I use for the graphics backend, and the shader compilation. So they basically wrap a lot of the DirectX, Metal, WebGL, that kind of stuff. Um, so I can just use uh, one graphics call, and then and the backend is handled through that library, and the shader compilation. So I can you write one shader, and it's compiled for Metal, DirectX, WebGL, Vulkan. Um, and I also use FreeType for font rendering. Uh, and then that's just testing. So that's not included in your project. And right now I'm using Nano SVG
Mm.
for rendering SVGs to it kind of like renders it to a sprite sheet right now. So those are like the three um, third-party libraries. I think there's one more. I'm not. Yeah, I'm using like STB rect packed. I don't. I've thought about removing it, but because I don't really need it. But it's just like packs a sprite sheet basically. It's just got one header file that I'm using for packing sprite sheets, but I might remove that one
Mm.
because I don't really need it. But so yeah, those are three. And free type, free type can include other ones, but I'm not using any of those right now. So for I'm not using that. I'm not like using like Harfbuzz um for text layout. Yep.
Wow, so it's pretty bare bones then.
Yeah, it's got those three, and then
BGFX, is that a pretty big library or is
yeah,
that?
they have their own dependencies, but they're all of them are pretty small. None of them it compiles really quickly. Yeah, they do a bunch they have like a bunch of different you don't need to use all their libraries. I can't remember which ones I
Mm.
use, but let's see. I don't know if there's all in one place or anything. Uh yeah, so BGFX, these are like the all the libraries in BGFX.
Hmm.
Um I
When,
think they include like yeah, for like image loading. There's like
mhm.
some libraries in there for image loading. Um, but I think they're option you can like turn them off and stuff.
Um, there was a great question about mouse and keyboard interactions. Are those, have you defined those?
Oh yeah, the
Like mouse
sorry,
down?
I stopped sharing. Yeah, so oh yeah, I didn't show a lot of the UI input. I could show that really quick.
Oh yeah, love to see that.
Yeah, one sec.
Somebody in the chat said that AAX is in the works for Clap as
Oh,
well, which
awesome. Yeah, yeah. I thought because I know AX released a GPL version, so that opened up a lot of possibilities. Let's see what can show overriding it, or I can show here. I'll show a really basic example. Uh, this is the that example I was showing before. Oh, that's not it. Hold on. With that, I was using the layout. All right, so you can override it, override like a mouse down, mouse down. I've become like the slowest typer when I actually do things live.
I was about to say we're giving you a test
Right,
here.
right. I would say mouse down equals false here.
Hmm.
You know, really basic,
Hmm.
and then I'll redraw because yeah, for this UI library, nothing. It's not all redrawn all at the same. It's not drawn every frame. rectangles are invalidated and those sections are redrawn. So you have to trigger a redraw if you want to change, if you want to redraw it. Mouse down. Set the color to be. All right, that should work. Oh no, I didn't. I just set it. I set it both to false. Here we go. Mouse down.
Nice.
Yeah, so like really basic. Mouse down, mouse up. There's like mouse wheel, mouse. We can go through them, and you can also set a callback to it, so you could be like frame dot on mouse. Whenever you have like an on something, you can
Hmm.
like have a little callback for it. So you can be like on mouse down, do something.
Hmm. This is so cool.
Not that. Which I find kind of nice. It better. I don't really like listeners very much, or but this lets you like you know add like callbacks to it. So whenever you have like these on mouse down things, you can either set it, that's look at the equal sign, or you can add on to it. So you can have
Yeah.
like multiple callbacks, if you
Oh,
want to do
wow.
multiple things.
I didn't,
Um,
didn't know you could do that. That's
yeah,
cool.
so like this object is like a whoa, this wrapping is weird. Okay. It's a callback list. It stores a bunch of functions that are callbacks for you, and
Mm,
then you can add onto it.
that's nifty.
Yeah, so it's nice if you like have have a frame that you're like drawing and you like want to do one more thing. Here, like I'll show you an example of that. It'd be like frame dot draw plus equals. Let's do uh,
Do
oh my
colors always
goodness.
be hex?
You can do other ways. You set it other ways. You can be like here. Then you can do floats like this.
Mm.
So that's black. You can do
Mm.
like that. I just
That,
like I like hex. I don't. And and, uh, oh my goodness, I'm so programming live is so slow. All right, so this should work. It should draw an extra shape on top of it. Yeah,
nice.
um, so you can like add on, if you have like a frame that a class that has a nice draw function, you just want to add one thing to it, because you don't want to inherit it and then draw, you can just add one draw call to it,
Mhm.
which I think is kind of nice.
Nice. Um, so there were a couple questions about widgets, widget libraries, that
Yeah.
that side of things. So,
It's
uh,
definitely something I want to expand. There are not many widgets in Visage right now. I only have like buttons. Um, there's like a color picker
mhm,
and a text editor.
okay.
So like very bare bones. There's no like audio specific ones. I find like a lot of people make their own anyway. Like, I mean,
Hmm.
a lot of people, some people don't, but like if you like work on a project for long enough, it's like a lot of people just end up making their own
Hmm.
sliders and knobs, and so I didn't want to write one just yet. I kind of wanted to wait and see what people do with the library, and then maybe see if people use it a certain way, then I might add like a slider. I have my own slider that I could add to it, but it has like a lot of my own specific needs in it. And so everyone has like different needs for sliders. So I kind of want to make it like an extendable type slider. So it would take a little designing to do something like that. But so there's not a lot of widgets yet, but it's definitely something I want to add And I might add like a whole, these are all like little side projects. You don't need to include the widgets library here, but it could
Yeah.
have like a whole audio widgets little library. But that's not developed yet.
Yeah, it sounds like it could also open up a Pandora's box into some of the challenges that Juice got into with look and feel and
Right, right, right. I don't like, yeah, they have all this code that like people use and then people end up hating and then writing their own anyway because I feel like Jude look and feel people really dislike it, at least in my circles. But
yeah.
and it does,
I
yeah.
think
But I have like a work in progress for something like that. But it's not. I'm not exposing a lot of it. You can like set a color. Let me see if there's an example of it.
yeah.
Let's see. That's not right.
It
Theme
would
color.
probably be really cool just to have some basic ones, just even basic ones to prototype, and then from there that people could.
Right, right. Yeah, I should. It would be nice to have something like that. I guess early on, I kind of wanted to be people who are more comfortable, using a more of a bare bones library than someone
Yeah,
who's like just brand new to audio plugin development,
yeah.
or
I think
UI development.
I actually think it's kind of cool that you haven't included a lot of widgets because that feels like something that would just bulk out the library and get you away from. It seems like rendering was really your core.
Yeah, it's basically making the library that I would want to use. I write a lot of my own widgets for my plugins, and they end up being like different, my new plugin, it's going to be different than Vital, so it's like it's hard to abstract like the a bare bones like slider or knob that's going to be right for everybody.
Right.
Um, so I don't really know how to make one that's going to act exactly how everyone wants it to. So it's like hard to put that in the library, in my opinion. So
Mhm.
uh, yeah, but maybe I'll do it one day.
Yeah, that sounds cool.
Yep.
Let's see. Let's see if there are any other good questions here. I think we've covered a lot. If anybody has any questions, please feel free to throw them in the chat now. Also, if you haven't liked yet, be sure to give it a thumbs up for the video so we can get a lot of good engagement on this video. Um,
I guess I should do that.
yeah, and there are more than three people that have that have told.
Oh yeah, it only says three. I haven't refreshed.
But let's see. Looks like we've addressed many of the questions. Somebody maybe they weren't around for the very beginning of the chat, but maybe it's a good place where we could start wrapping up, which is what the future vision for Visage. Where would you like to see it go?
Let's see. I don't know. I would like it to be more stable. Um, I don't know how. There's no like. I don't have a plugin out there built with it yet. I'm working on my own, but it's not. It's not out there getting. It doesn't have like a million users or anything. So I don't know how. I want it to be more like tried and true. That's like number one is like I want it to be like something you can just rely on. It's still early days, so it's definitely some things might be wrong with it. There's definitely gonna be some bugs. Uh, I've done a lot of things that um I guess I guess I don't know. It's like hard to know what would be exciting later on. I've done a lot of things that set up this project, so like I'm kind of like now I'm gonna focus on making Visage stable and like ma writing my plugin. And so I'd be interested in what people request though, like because that might give me more ideas. Like it has a lot of the features that I want. Like it has like, the masking, which is very important to me, post effects shaders and maybe I'll include more post effects type stuff. You know, uh but right now I'm pretty happy with the bloom and the blur, which I think are two of the more common ones that people would want. Uh I think something I've really been thinking about a lot is making more of a reactive UI, which is definitely we had this long discussion on the Rust Discord audio Discord about reactive UIs, and they kind of are built. We've kind of the conclusion that there were people compare them side by side, but it's more like reactive UIs. React, and if no one knows what a reactive UI is, it's like kind of a lot of the redrawing and it's all done for you, and like reorganization. So like say like you have something show up when you click a button that you don't in an imperative like a library like Visage, you have to be like set visible when on button click set visible, or on button click again set visible off. But on a reactive library, it'd be like the button or like the whatever the window that you want to show is like would know about the state. So like whenever you set something to true, like is window shown, it'll show, and when it's ever set to false, it'll hide. So it's kind of like a more it lets you design things in a more straightforward way.
So
So I
it's like
thought about doing something like what?
it sounds like more like separation and independence from each other. Am
It's
I-
more like I don't. It's like really common in like web frameworks. Like have you ever used Vue or you can just be like show this element when this is set to true. When like so like if you're filling out a form and you have a bad password, so show this error when there's an error, and
Hmm.
it'll show when it's there's an error, and when there's no error, it'll hide it. And it all happens like the showing and the hiding happen, and like everything moving around happen behind the scenes, and you just say show it or hide it. Or you don't have to even say show it or hide it. It'll show and hide based on the error. So if you set the error, it'll show,
Hmm.
and if you hide the error, it'll go away. So there's things like that I might want to do, make it something more reactive. But it's hard. I don't really have any plan. I don't have any hard plans for that.
Right. So let me going back to the reactive UI. Let me make sure I understand this right.
Yeah.
So you're saying that so let's say it was a button, the button itself would just be set to true or false, and that there would be some other logic somewhere else
Yeah,
where
the button would set something to true or false, and then something would hook into that and be like, look at the whatever variables it needs.
right, right.
Um, so it's not like you wouldn't have to set these callbacks to, it's like, yeah, so you wouldn't have to be like, okay, on this button click, go to this other component and show it,
Hmm.
right? So you can just like have um, things hook into whatever state you have.
Yes,
And it's
got
not
it.
like you have to send state out to those,
Right.
um, yeah, to those frames or
Yeah.
those parts of your app. So it's not like you don't have to send state. It's kind of like it's like it's more of like you it like they listen for state changes, if that
Right.
makes sense.
So would it be like so one way that a friend of mine was teaching me how to use my components was that rather than having let's say it's dot show visible uh, inside a button on click, you would have an the way that I was doing it was that you would have like button on click, and then I'd have another lambda inside of it that would say button clicked equals true, right? And then I would have that state somewhere else where I would connect that with the window visibility. Is that am I right?
I guess it would just be like a totally different setup. Like in your say you have like I guess the error case is good. It's like say you have some text that only shows up when there's an error, right? Or maybe you want to like make the button red or something. Those two things. And so something happens, all you something say something happens, you have an error. All you need to do is set the error.
Got it.
You don't need to go and show set the te error text, or
Right,
you don't need to go and like make the button red or make the border red. You just set the error. And then
right.
those things, the border looks at your error is like, oh, there's an error, so now I'm red.
Mm, mm, mm,
And the error text is like, oh, there's an error, so I'm going to show myself. So
mhm,
it's more of like a you can just design things, when you have like a something happen, it's very simple. You just say, do the one thing. You don't have
mhm.
to send your state everywhere.
Right, right,
Yeah.
right.
It's kind of like yeah. That's like a reactive basic. I think there's more than that, but it takes a lot of setup. It takes a lot of, it would, I don't even know how you'd have to do some like crazy stuff in C++ to even make that happen. A lot of it happened, it's done in like JavaScript and, or like it's like it modifies this HTML. So then it refreshes your page, so it's like, there's all these, I don't know how you would do it in C++ very easily. It probably takes some structure. You'd have to have like some weird hooks. Take some design, I would say. And there's nothing like that right now in Visage, but
Mm.
yeah.
Wow, this has been educational. I think that we've answered all the questions. Thank you so much, Matt.
Yeah.
For
Thanks for having
everybody,
me on.
yeah, thanks a lot. And for anybody who wants to know about Visage, check out the link. It's in the video description. And yeah, let's
Yeah,
stay connected.
if anyone has any issues getting started with it, let me know. I kind of want to make it very straightforward to get set up. It's CMake, so that is a requirement right now. I don't have other build setups out there, but
yeah,
if you use CMake, let me know if it's easy, like, or if it's not easy actually, and then I'll work on making it easy to set up. I want to make sure like the libraries aren't there's no library conflicts or anything like that. So
yeah. I'll yeah, and I'll be sure to, I want to definitely experiment with this. I'm going to have a couple live streams or tutorials where I'm going to walk through this and see if I can figure out how ways that we can make parameters and start doing some of the things that a lot of people are asking about. Um, great. Somebody had asked, is there going to be a Discord for Visage?
yeah, I guess I could make one. Should I make one right now? Is that weird?
Yeah.
Let's see. How do you create one? Scroll
Or
down.
yeah, let us know and we could definitely share it out in our Discord. So, um, or I
Here,
could,
I'll post the link. I just created it.
yeah, I could also
Uh,
create a Visage room in the audio programmer Discord if
oh
that's
yeah,
it.
I mean, if people are interested in that, we could do that too. If
Cool.
people want to chat afterward, we can. You can. I think that link will
Cool.
work.
All right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
if anyone wants to talk to me there. But
Sweet.
all right,
I'll
thanks for having me on.
I'll create a room in the audio programmer Discord. That would be fun, I'm sure.
All right, sounds good. Yeah,
Cool. Yeah, and for anybody who's looking to join the community, you can join us on theaudioprogrammer.com/community. We have about 11,000 people in there now. It's nothing like Matt's Vital Discord. Oh my goodness. How many do you have in there
oh
now?
man, I don't know. It's kind of. I think it's dwindling. I haven't like been because I haven't been like releasing a lot of updates or plugins. So I don't know. I would have to check. So
It was huge though. I looked at it the other
I
day.
mean, the audio programmer Discord is getting gigantic. It's really active. I don't know.
It's very active and it's awesome because I remember just if even a few years ago just I used to be able to track all the discussions and I knew everybody
Yeah,
that now I see all kinds of people in flowing in and out that I don't know personally and
yeah, totally.
amazing and I
I know
and
there's a lot going on there. It's hard to keep track of all the conversations, but
it is
yeah,
hard to keep track. But yeah, that's cool. That's cool. So yeah, so if you have questions regarding Visage, I'll set up a Visage area
sweet.
in there's an area in the audio programmer Discord called Frameworks and Libs, and I will set
Awesome.
that. Yeah. And cool. It's there. It
Great.
lit. And I'll pin the repository to the somebody already somebody already put a message in there.
Hmm,
So funny. And I'll pin the repository there so everybody knows where to get it. But
sweet.
yeah, thank you so much, Matt. This is really
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah, thanks, Josh.
Yeah.
Awesome.
And all right. Until next time. See you later. All right.